some information about the 8th standard science chapter number 8 and the chapter name Cell, the structure and function. Okay, so in this chapter you will be able to learn what is cell and who discovered the cell and what are the components of cell and how the cells are different from each others, and also we'll learn how to distinguish a plant cell and an animal cell. Okay, so before that, let me ask some question. Okay, so around us in our world, we can see the living organism as well as non-living organisms, right? So living organism means those who has life, and non-living organism means non-living things means those who has no life, right? So when we say an organism as living, it should maintain certain basic functions, right? Like nutrition, respiration, transportation, excretion, etc., right? So all these basic functions are maintained by different organs in that living organism, right? So if you are taking plant, so in plant there are xylem vessels to carry the water, phloem vessels are there to carry the food, and chlorophylls are there for the functioning of photosynthesis. Stomatas are there for gaseous exchange, right? And in the case of human beings or in the case of animals, we can say that heart is there for the transport of materials in our body, and kidney is there for the excretion of the waste product that formed in our body, respiration which are performed by lungs, right, for breaking down the glucose to produce the energy. And so in our body as well as in other any living organism, each organ perform different functions. Okay, so let's learn what is the deal of cells in the living organisms. So let's move on to the chapter. So today we are going to discuss the new chapter, that is cell, structure and function. So I told you that in our world living and non-living things are there. So in the case of living things, each organ are there to perform different functions, so that each organ is made from different cells. Okay, so today you will learn what is a cell, what are its structure and what are its function. Okay, so the robot hook in 1665 observed a cell. Okay, in 1665 Robert Hooke observed a cell. When? 1665. Who? Robert Hooke. Okay, so in that year there were no microscopes at all. Okay, there were no microscopes. So he observed these cells in a magnifying lens, using a magnifying lens. Magnifying lens. So he used a magnifying lens to observe the cell. And in which he observed the cell? In the cork of a tree. Okay, cork of a tree. So he observed in the cork of a tree using magnifying lens in 1665. Okay, So what is a cork? It is the part of a bark. Okay, so it is a part of bark. It is a part of. He took the slices of cork from the bark of a tree and observed under the magnifying lens, and he has observed compartments in that cork. Okay, so he compared it with an honeycomb. It's like an honeycomb. Okay, so also he observed that each bricks are separated from each other. Actually they were dead. Actually the robot who observed cells were dead cell. Okay, so he just named, or he just coined the term cells. Okay, so robot Hooke coined the term cells when he observed corks and slices of cork under the magnifying lens, and he observed that some brick-like structure which is arranged in compartments. Okay, so it was like an honeycomb, and he coined that bricks as cell. Okay, see, so who coined out the name cell? Robert Hooke coined out the name cell when he discovered the cell, that in 1665 he discovered the cell, and using a magnifying lens. Okay, in which he observed in the cork of a tree. What is a cork? It is the part of a bark of a tree. Okay, now let's learn about the cell. Okay, so once more I'll repeat. Cells observed by Robert Hooke in 1665 using a magnifying lens in cork. Okay, cork is a part of bark of the tree. Okay, and cell. So the cell vary in number, vary in size, also they vary in shape. So in all living organisms, the cells vary in number, vary in size, and vary in shape. Okay, so we can write here cell, they vary in shape, structure, and number. Size, shape, structure, and number. Okay, so the cells. What is a cell? Cell is the basic fundamental unit of life. We can say cells as the fundamental unit of life. So I told you that in all living organisms, these organs are made from cells, right? So any part of a living organism, when we take any part of a living organism, it's made from the cells. So we can write cells are the basic unit of life. So cells are the basic unit of life. Okay, so they vary in size, they vary in structure, shape, and vary in number. Okay, so now let us learn how they are vary in number. Okay, so I told you that each living organisms has cell as the fundamental unit of life, right? So when we take human beings as an example, there are trillions of cells present. Okay, so in human beings, trillions of cells are present. So from smaller to the larger one, their number may vary. Okay, so when we take example as human, trillions of our human body is made of trillions of cells. Okay, so they vary in number. And you know that I told you that living organisms are made from the cells, right? So when we take human beings, the trillions, our body is made of trillions of cells, right? But this body is made from a single cell. Okay, so our body is made from a single cell, which is an fertilized egg. Okay, so that single cell, from that single cell, lots of divisions will happen to that single cell, and what happens? Then cells increases in its number, and trillions of cells may form from that single cell. Okay, so based on the number, the organisms, or based on the number of cells, the organisms are classified into unicellular organisms and multicellular organism. Okay, so based on number, the cells are based on the number of cells, the organisms are classified into unicellular and multicellular. So, from the name itself, uni means single. Uni means single. Okay, so unicellular means single-celled organisms. So, unicellular are those single-cell organisms, whereas the multicellular organism, multi means more than one. Okay, so we can write, see, more cells organisms are called multicellular organisms. Okay, so can you give one example for this multicellular organism? Yes, humans can be called as a multicellular organism. And plants, what about plants? Plants is also a multicellular organism. Okay, so its body is made of different types of cells, and in the case of human beings, trillions of cells are there. So more than 2 cells are present in organism, then they will call it as multicellular organism. So here we can write examples as plants and animals. And here, what is an example for unicellular organism? For a unicellular organism, we can write example as amoeba. Okay, so amoeba is a single-celled organism. Amoeba is a single-celled organism. So we can write amoeba as an example for unicellular organism. Okay, so bacteria is a unicellular, amoeba is a unicellular organism. Okay, so unicellular means single cell organism. So all the life activities like respiration, excretion, nutrition, transportation, all will takes place in this single cell itself. Whereas in multicellular organisms, each function may perform by different cells or different organs. So I told you that cells are the basic unit of life, right? So from the cells, tissues will form. From the tissues, what will form? Organ will form. From the organ system will form. That organ system together constitute the body of an organism. Okay, so that's why I told you that cells are the basic structural and functional unit of life. So don't forget that cells, who discovered cell? Robert Hooke in 1665 in under using a magnifying lens in Cork. Okay, then what we said, then we set the definition for the cell. Cells are the fundamental unit of life, and we can say that it's a cells are the structural and functional unit of organs, structural and functional unit of organs or organisms. And we had discussed that The number may vary in organisms, or the cell's number or the cell size or the cell shape or cell structure may vary in each living organism. An example, I told you that in the case of human beings, trillions of cells are present. Okay, so it may vary from each living organism, and based on their number, the organism can be classified into two, that is unicellular organism and multicellular organism. Unicellular means single cell organisms are called unicellular organism, and more than two cells are present, then the organisms are called a multicellular organism. Example, humans or the animals and the plants are example for multicellular organism, whereas amoeba is an example for single cell organism. Now let us discuss about the shape of cell. Okay, now we will discuss about the shape of cell. So, I told you that amoeba is an example for single cell organism, right? So, can you suggest the shape of this amoeba? So, there is no definite shape for amoeba, right? So, actually, they will change their structure when they require, while the movement. Okay, so you have heard about the pseudopodia, right? Pseudopodia, which is an elongated body structure which are used for capturing the food. Okay, so pseudopodia, you might heard that in 7th standard. So pseudopodia, otherwise we can call it as false feet. Okay, so these are the elongated structure from their body. So there is no definite shape for this single celled organism, right? Whereas in another example for single cell in human beings, we can write as WBC, or white blood cells, which can also change their structure. Okay, so they can also change their shape. Okay, so but here WBC is a single cell, whereas amoeba is a single celled organisms. Okay, so in the case of if you are taking human beings or any other kind of animals, you can see different kinds of cells like nerve cells. Nerve cells, some of the example I'll say nerve cells, you can find muscle cells, you can find then RBC, red blood cells, you can find then lots of cells. You can, that I told you that it is made from trillions of cells, right? So here we will discuss about these cells. So cells can be seen as long, or we can see it as long, and the tip may be pointed, so we can call it as spindle shaped, or some cells are spherical or rounded. So let us discuss. Okay, so here nerve cell, which is the longest cell present in the body of a living organism. So nerve cell can be right as longest cell. It is the longest cell. Okay, so nerve cell are the longest cell in our body, and it is I will draw the structure of the nerve cells. So nerve cell we can write so they are very long and branched. They are very long and branched structure. So this is structure for the nerve cell. Okay, so they are long and branched. Actually, the control and coordination of our body is taken place by these nerve cells. So when I call, I will say one example. So when you are reading, you get understand that what you are reading, right? And when you are hearing me, you are understanding what I'm saying, right? So there are specific receptors to receive the information, and that information is passing to our brain or the spinal cord through these nerves. So we can simply say that nerves are involved in the control and coordination of our body. Then muscle cells. So muscle cells, they are they are long and pointed at the tip. They are long and pointed at the tip. So we can say it as muscle cell. So it's another kind of cell that present in our body. So they are long but pointed at the tip. So we can say it as spindle shape. Okay, so we can say it as spindle shape. And about the red blood cells or the RBC, so they can call it as round or spherical structure. So when we take these as example, we can say that the cells are different in shape. Okay, so when we are taking this much of cells, we get understood that they are different in shape, right? So we had discussed that based on the number, they can be classified into unicellular and multicellular organism. Unicellular means single celled organism, multicellular means more than one cell. Okay, so example for multicellular, we have said that animals and plants can be given as an example for multicellular organism, and unicellular organism, amoeba is an example for unicellular organism. Okay, and our body is made of trillions of cells, and each will be vary from each organisms. Okay, and we had discussed there are different kinds of cells based on their shape. So each cell is different in its shapes and size, or also from the number. Okay, so when we take this much of example, we could understand that each cell is different. So nerve cell is the longest and branched type, which is used for the control and coordination of the body. So functions are also different, right? So muscle cells, we can find a spindle shaped muscle cells. There are cardiac muscles, like the branched cells are there. So we can say that each cells are different in shape. Each cells are different in shape, as well as they perform different functions. So actually, do you know which structure enabled them to change their shape? Okay, so that's called the cell membrane. Okay, so cell membrane. So cell membrane enable the organisms, or they enable the cells to change their structure.